Welcome back to another episode of the Canon. I'm your host Terry, and today doing a quick review of Crisis on Infinite Earth, Part 1, the CW Earths? Anyway, the crossover on the CW. I want to get my review out for Part 1 before Part 2 starts pretty soon. So I'll end up watching it this morning. For some reason, I saw something that said 8 o'clock last night, and it was 7 o'clock my time, so I missed it. But I watched it this morning. I think they uploaded it like 5 or 6. But anyway, I watched it super early. And you know what? I wasn't that thrilled with it. I've been having conversations back and forth with some people that saw it. Some people thought it was solid. I don't see too many that went crazy for it. But for me personally, I thought it was below average. I haven't watched Supergirl for a while. I think maybe season 2 is the last time I watched. And so I know this was quote unquote the Supergirl episode, but for me, I'm just like, there's a lot going on that I don't know what's happening. And I don't have to know everything, but I feel like these crossovers are best when it's a story that doesn't require you to know everybody's story. And it's done best when it doesn't require you to actually like shift to that certain person's episode. So for example, the Supergirl episode being heavy Supergirl about some of her stuff and continuing her storylines, and then we shift to Batwoman, so we're going to do some of her storylines. Then we shift to Flash and do some of their stuff. I don't like that. To me, the crossover story should be about the crossover that brings everybody together. It shouldn't be about the character whose show it is in the crossover on the B side. I think the main story should be the best. And so for me, I look at Crisis on Earth X as the best example. I went nuts, and you know, on the other channel with the Canon, you can see my review for that, but I went nuts for that. I thought it was better than some Avengers movies. Like it, I mean, you know, of course, you know, relatively, but the writing was impeccable. From the way they gathered, like you think about the way they gathered here. And again, I haven't been following, really I only follow the Flash, to be honest with you, this season. But so I didn't know about Diggle's wife being a monitor or whatever. And either way, you got people just popping up. Okay, let me grab you. Okay, let me grab you. Okay, let me grab you. But you think about Crisis on Earth X, it was a funny, light, and really fun way to get them together. It was Barry's wedding. And whether you watch Legends or any of these shows, you knew what was happening. It was like, hey, babe, we haven't got RSVPs. Who didn't RSVP? And then they click to the Arrow fight. No, we need the RSVP for the wedding. They click to the Legends fight, and we need the RSVP for the wedding. And so all these people then descend upon Central City, and it was just fun, and it was just clever. And then you had a lot of good interactions. And then with Crisis on Earth X, it didn't matter which night you were watching. It was about Crisis on Earth X. It wasn't like, oh, this is the Flash episode. Okay, now this is the Arrow episode. Now this is the Legends episode. It was all one big cohesive story, and I felt none of that last night with Crisis on Infinite Earth. It felt very much like a Supergirl story, and I haven't watched Supergirl, so you're already alienating, you know, pun intended, an audience. And it's not to say that my way is perfect or that it needs to be that way. It's definitely something to be said if you watch all the shows and come into the crossover. But same thing with Infinity War, or in Endgame to a certain extent. You can't just sit there and say, well, you got to play inside baseball or you're not going to like it. You got to create it to where people will like it, even if they aren't hardcore into it. And so I just felt they leaned too heavy on Supergirl, which is a show I don't like. And so overall, I didn't like a lot of that, especially the Superman playing second fiddle to Supergirl, and they do it whenever they can. And then Oliver's death just wasn't impactful to me. I mean, I haven't followed this season of Arrow, but I know Oliver. I've been with him for most of the seasons, and the way he went out, I get it. He was trying to save people. It was like, we calculate his efforts, saved 1 billion people. But the way it went was just, oh, I'm going to run at a bunch of random ghosts. And he came back all cut up and bloody. And it's like, really? That's what, and it wasn't even Earth 1. It wasn't his son. It wasn't his daughter. It wasn't the city. It was just a different Earth. And oh my God, I'm going to go, fight these ghosts. And he died. It was just, it was underwhelming to me overall for a lot of different reasons. But it was the first episode, so I hope for it to get better. And I'm looking forward to a lot of the things that they do. There were some cool Easter eggs they did. And we were wondering, because a lot of people was like, they're going to have so many cameos and different Easter eggs. How is it going to fit organically, or is it going to feel forced? Honestly, in the first episode, some of it, a good amount of it felt forced. And so we'll see what the cameos and Easter eggs are like in part 2. But that's just how I feel right now. So overall, if I was to give it a grade, I would give part 1 a 76. So right around a C. So 76 out of 100. Anyway, go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about Crisis on Infinite Earths part 1. And then I'll be doing part 2 tonight. So stick around for that. And yeah, if you heard it, it's official canon.